And so I'll
Do you
probably have
see
a
do you see
few.
a spike after COVID for
It was
MicroAquire?
actually right at COVID. I don't know what caused it, but
Mm.
my only assumption was people were taking money out of the market to put into
Different things,
businesses
yeah.
that were able to cash flow, like alternative assets or alternative investments. But yeah, COVID, we definitely
Do
saw.
you see the hockey stick kind of like that in the last
We
12
did,
months?
and obviously, I don't want to say I'm benefiting from such a
Yes.
bad time in the world, but I think what it did is it just really accelerated. You know, typical acquisitions was steak dinner, handshake, stuff like that.
Now it's
Everything
a
was,
Zoom call, right?
yeah. So now it's online, and people
Yeah,
are comfortable with that, and that's
yeah.
maybe another piece of advice for entrepreneurs listening is one of my theses when building businesses is looking at building a business in an unobvious market that will become
Mm.
obvious over time.
What do you mean by that? Expand on that.
So three examples. Business Apps was a mobile app builder for small businesses to quickly build native iOS and Android applications. And
Okay.
as soon as I saw the iPhone came out, I thought every business is going to want to get on this phone. That one was an obvious problem in an obvious market.
Mm,
And so I kind of got lucky with that venture.
mm,
Altcoin was a bet on the crypto markets. I
mm,
thought this was an unobvious problem that would become obvious.
mm.
I was semi-correct with that one because the crypto market's like 10 times what they
Yeah.
were when I
Yes.
sold that
Yeah.
business. So maybe I
Yeah.
should have held on to that.
Yes.
And then with MicroAquire, I felt that with so many entrepreneurs exiting businesses, with companies going public and minting millionaires, that
Hmm.
there'd be a large amount of individuals looking to acquire companies rather than
Mm.
start new companies, almost as a new form of entrepreneurship.
It is. It is. Yes.
And I didn't
I'm
know.
very supportive of that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really can be a great way to get into entrepreneurship, especially if you're not technical or you don't have a good idea. You can buy a business and apply what you're good at, whether that's sales or marketing,
Marketing. Hmm.
SEO, whatever that might be. But
Hmm.
I didn't think I was going to be right, but I made a bet that this is a market that's not obvious today. It's literally a startup that helps startups sell to other startups. So it sounded kind of ridiculous, but I thought, you know, people are going to be looking to buy these businesses, and I need to build a more efficient way of helping these businesses get acquired. And that's what I did. And then as MicroAquire started to grow, just the buyer pool just has exploded in the last 12 months. So market timing is the number one reason for startup success. So
So you're almost saying that just to be almost a little bit early, just a little, or not too early, but just early enough. Then when the problem becomes more obvious, the demand becomes more obvious, you've put yourself in a position to kind of capitalize on that, right?
yeah, I think if you look at some of the biggest companies around, you'll notice that, they started in a low TAM market and then that
True, true,
market grew over time. There's
true,
countless examples of that.
true.
Salesforce, as an example, they
Yeah,
said every software solution is going to go to the cloud. We're going
cloud.
to do
Yeah.
this thing called software as a service.
Hmm.
And they were right. They made a bet on something unobvious. Like, no, you don't need to come to my office, install this software.
Yeah, this
You can
machine. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like you can just access this from your computer. And
Hmm.
they made that bet early and they were
Yes,
obviously very right.
yes.
So yeah, look at what seems unobvious to everybody else, but obvious to you and make a bet. And then like another great example would be all of the entrepreneurs that made big bets on remote work being the future.
Yes.
There was a big shift in the world over the past 12, 14 months,
Hmm.
and they were right,
Hmm.
where remote, that really just accelerated their businesses. But that's one example off the top of my head. But yeah, and those are around today. And you can think about the place I would start if you're looking to think about markets and market timing is think about what the world is going to look like in 2 years,
Mm,
not
mm,
what it looks like today. So if
mm,
you're building like remote tools and stuff like that,
mm,
you're in a very competitive market. Tons of other entrepreneurs are in there. But you want to be looking at what is the next
vision.
phase of SaaS or the next phase of software and build
Mm.
tools for that.
Where do you see the SaaS world is going?
It's a great question. I think there's a lot of opportunity in just data and analytics. Like a lot of stuff I think about with MicroAquire as an example is no one really knows what a startup's worth. Like people have formulas they can kind of give you, which are fairly accurate. But with MicroAquire, I'm able to gather real market data. So if you have a SaaS company doing $1 million a year, growing at 20%, 3% churn, I can show you with real market data what these businesses are really selling for today. So I think that's interesting. Anything in terms of automation, I think, if you look at any sort of use case with an Excel spreadsheet, I think that's a business idea in the making. There's a ton. Machine learning, AI, that's a little too technical for me, but I think machine learning has a lot of interesting use cases that we'll be seeing in the next, 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Interesting, because when you see so many businesses, you have insights about, hey, these are things that are kind of selling, these are things that's kind of working. You kind of have a little crystal ball just because you have so many entrepreneurs and so much data coming to you, right?
I do see a lot of startups. That is definitely true, and I think the most eye-opening part about MicroAquire is just how well entrepreneurs are doing that you just never hear about. Like you don't hear about, again, we'll go back to your example of your friend looking to build $1 million business.
Yeah.
He's not going to get featured in TechCrunch or
No.
Forbes. He doesn't need to.
No.
But then these entrepreneurs sell businesses for, $5 million, and
you don't hear about them. You don't hear about them. You don't read about them. You just do the thing.
And I would love for that to change. I think that sort of entrepreneurship should be celebrated more, where you own the majority of the business. You built a profitable business. There's a big difference between a business and a startup. A startup, in my mind, is grow at all costs. Your only option is to exit the business. You're never going to cash flow the business if you have investors on the balance sheet. It depends on the situation, but most times. But when you own the majority of the business, you can cash flow it. You control, your destiny. You can do whatever you want. You own the whole company. You can sell it at any time.
Yes.
And those are the entrepreneurs I really admire, and I see a lot of them.
I love that.